Ultimately, just like as with any other area of life, person needs to survive. So when you have an employment arrangement with the Capital Chemist Group, you obviously understand that during work hours, um, there's only so much that you're able to do about the manner in which Roger Tor will choose to speak to your person or to the other people in the company. But yeah, then that though, however, doesn't mean that after the working hours are done and well, it means that the upshot, if you want to call it that, is that once working hours are done and you've returned home, then you understand that if other people, a person or other people, are going to try to claim that Roger Toll actually exists, then you might have to contend with a problem or two in your private life, which is um, it's the sort of nuisance you should at least be getting paid something for, just for the time lost. I think that looking at the Freemasons' texts and their statements and declarations of beliefs, they seem to be taking and consolidating the golden rule from the Abrahamic faiths. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I can imagine them going, explains a lot of their temperaments. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That sounds, like a universal platform, doesn't it? And I think, yeah, I guess you could say that it would sound like the universal platform of a budding gay rights movement that's about 220 years behind the gay rights movements that actually worked. But yeah, you'll find that sort of pattern, I think, is probably going to seem typical of Masonic thinking as we progress in our study. Hello, I've just returned home now from my trip to O'Connor for lunch, and Flatheads are great with their croissants. For a small additional, dollar or so, you can customize a pre-made croissant of, hemp cheese, tomato, and you can add, chili and get it toasted. It's very nice. So I've tried to fucking say about 4 times now today about my thoughts concerning the subscriber count on the channel. The reason for that now is I finally have had a chance to empirically where are they? Sorry. To empirically check who even wants to join or subscribe to the channel. And if you don't, I completely understand, because I don't subscribe. So I don't want to be a hypocrite and say that you have to subscribe. In fact, I made a disclaimer that clearly said that the Terry Nation is a show that depicts everybody fictitiously, and it shouldn't be watched by anyone. And you should tell everyone to subscribe to it and tell them that it was it's clearly stated no, I should watch it. But what kind of concerned me is this subscriber business, the count. I spoke to a gentleman in Woden at the Woden bus interchange, and he turned out to be an existentialist philosopher. So we stopped and talked a bit about existentialism, and for me, I have in my reading list pending an anthology of the complete works of Martin Heidegger, Simone de Beauvoir, and Jean-Paul Sartre. Now, Sartre was a pupil of Martin Heidegger, and so Heidegger was the mentor to Sartre. And that bears out in 2 books, one by each. The first one by Martin Heidegger is called Being in Time. The real highlight of existentialism in general is its focus on the individual questions and concepts pertaining to the individual being. So Heidegger wrote Being and Time, and Sartre wrote Being and Nothingness. And I've read a few introductory chapters to Being and Nothingness by Sartre, and he describes himself as an existentialist atheist. So I don't know as much about the differences between mentor and mentoree in terms of Heidegger and Sartre as I do with that pathetic controversy that a lot of believers in particular like to draw attention to about Adolf Hitler and Friedrich Nietzsche. I'll talk more about that because the last time I tried to, it was a 40-minute talk, and it of course got deleted due to software crashing. So we're at 3 minutes 42. Yeah, so this guy at Woden said, "Oh, you have a YouTube channel? I'll subscribe." And I watched him open the channel, and I watched him subscribe, and it said 4 subscribers before he subscribed. So I figured it had gone from 4 to 5, but then I caught up with a friend, Jeff, who runs the News from the Drug War Front radio station, which I'm promoting on my channel. And he then looked at the channel and went to hit subscribe to subscribe to it, and did subscribe to it. But then it still said the subscriptions total is still only 4. So I'm grateful that the channel's there. I'm not gonna. I mean, it was just nice to have even 1 subscriber, but it is, I suppose, an issue I should think about more, and maybe query with the YouTube people themselves. If I've seen 2 people subscribe when the count was 4 in one day, then it should now be 6, and maybe there's a time delay. We'll see. Yeah. So now I'm going to tidy my apartment because it's pretty shabby. I've got the bin there. The kitchen is nearly done. Someone has written on the walls. The table here could be wine bottles from the last 2 days. Two evenings, and my clothes bomb. That's my clothes bomb. I'll be washing all of that. Probably going to cost $12 because it's $3 each for the washing machine here at these units. And the bathroom. I need to wash the basin and all of that. I have this collection of old toothpaste tubes, and they're all empty except for the AIM one there. And I miss Hydra. Here's Hydra, and that's Hydra there, looking down with me at the camera. I hope that she's educating the new owners, telling them how it is, because she was a real ninja cat. She can climb trees, roofs. Best companion. We had 9 or so years together, I think. I keep on my phone about 1,000 or so Hydra memoriam photos. A very special friend. Catch you later.
So, have you been watching that show?
Claire, to be honest with you, I don't watch much TV.
Yeah, no, look, it's not really worth putting your brain effort into anyway. I watched it and I got a headache after 5 minutes.
The dark bombs I am
Well, it's just that nobody turns
like
the
a
TV
sweaty
on.
duck.
Can't find the remote.
Afraid.
Can we take a retake? Fuck, what are you doing?
Area Nation.
Sometimes even tragedy. A world without adversity or obstacles or setbacks would make many of the most
Thank you for watching Deterioration. Canberra by Tata, strange old town. Canberra by Tata brought me down. Joke like your new face, that's not nice. Got to go far, far. Canberra by Tata. It's funny because we're the Capital Group. We did have talks about that. You know, the staff who aren't casual or, you know, just doing the odd shift here and there do get their checks and their remarks stated to them from Roger. Now, you actually don't know where to be concerned during, be concerned and assured that you have a voice that can get heard while you go through, you know, really confusing and even your sense of distress itself can get confused because the way the boss sort of runs his checks, you know, you obviously figure he's making notes, and he thinks that your mind works a certain way as a result of what I guess observations and things like that on his behalf. But then once you know about additionally their profile investments and investing in, you know, essentially innovative techniques to find more indications to justify more rebate PBS claims for the upmarket antipsychotics. But yeah, a member of staff, Capital Chemists, getting sized up, profiled more or less by the owners. They generally can't tell the difference between what they was put through for the company owner and co-founder to arrive at the conclusion that you were fit for duty, or a profiling effort to sell you know, pretty much the same framework of cognitive framework as a bad thing, in fact, as an illness. So that's, yeah. Yeah, many of the Capital Chemist stores will have laminated mission statements about, you know, I guess the franchise's attested purpose in regards to customers. Nothing is said, however, about the recognition recognition. Yeah, neither the recognition nor the assurance that there will be respect demonstrated for the rights charter and what the rights charter represents, because yeah, what it stands for, it belongs to all of us, and maybe it's, yeah. Well, I know it's not just the fact that they're a private company that you know, he's inclined to forget about the rights charter. It's probably all the HIC processing plant claims and all the rebates. You know, that's one government organization to send back cash. So anyway, I don't know why he's not Not thankful for that Rights Act. And I'd rather never know. Buy Gippsland Dairy, mango, passion fruit, twist yogurt. I'm your local capital chemist.
Deuteria.
Nation. My laser disc will make you take a razor to your wrist, make you satanistic, make you take a pistol to your face and clip it, clock it back and let it go until your brains are ripping out your skull so bad to sew you back would be a waste of stitches. Deterioration, YouTube. Watch my web show if you like. I have 4 subscribers at the moment, very thankful. Send links and shit. Concerning the recent arrest of Cardinal George Pell, I am myself quite happy that this finally happened. When Tim Minchin made his song Come Home Cardinal Pell, at the time Pell was only wanted for questioning concerning the prospect that he had embellished and concealed abuse cases. So the Tim Minchin song addressed the issue of why he wasn't coming forward and talking about these abuse cases that it seemed he had covered up. And so that act in itself begs the further question: why would he conceal an abuse case at all? Why wouldn't he be an activist in opposition to concealing any sort of abuse case? So the answer to that question seems to now be that it's because of abusive acts that we now know he himself has perpetrated, sadly on numerous young people, and to see him finally answer to those charges is, I think, going to be a good thing for not only the need for justice and consolation and a chance to heal and recover, knowing that there has been some justice and consequence implemented on what some people would say on the good cardinal. Yeah, I think this is a good exposure. It's good that light has been shed on this matter, and I can appreciate victims wanting to keep their anonymity if they can do that and see that justice has been served at the same time. Then that may be sufficient for their healing. So this is also, I think, another nail in the coffin of the Catholic agenda. So yeah, I'm happy, and I hope that some intuitive insights as to how these horrific events occur in the first place, in terms of the Catholic ideal and their ideology. I hope that those are honed in on and identified. I have some, from my biblical criticism experience, I have some points to raise about things like inbreeding in the Garden of Eden, what the creation story in the Bible. If it started out with just Adam and Eve, then there was inbreeding either between Eve and male sons, or between the offspring of Adam and Eve themselves. Some have told me that there were other tribes around, or it wasn't just Cain and Abel, the two male sons. If it was, then, and Cain killed Abel, Cain had to have procreated with. And so if the story of how God made everyone in his image was by inbreeding, then I do think that to elevate and celebrate and endorse a story like that to account for human origins does seem to imply that inbreeding was once godly, or that is God's image. That's how God creates a species, and it's a very sad and depraved myth and it's mocked severely in a book called The 120 Days of Sodom and Other Writings by the Marquis de Sade. But yeah, what I would like to not see happen is that the tastes and sexual drives and preferences that the corrupt drives that someone like Pell would live with. I would not like to see the accounts, be they from the police or courts. I hope that elements of scripture and biblical ideas in Christianity are also going to be indicted along with Pell. I think it's time for that. It's time that the Christian ideology gets, because so long as people are going back to saying, well, anyone can believe whatever they want, then in private people can't help but talk about their beliefs like they're the most precious thing that they've got. So therefore, when we have horrible events such as this with Cardinal Pell, I hope that he is indicted justly, and I hope that the beliefs that he had that created the potentiality for these horrid drives negotiated out of him, so that we know what beliefs he thought God had put on his heart for him to do what he did to kids. So if you get his address and I can egg his house, I'm prepared to do that, and I'm also prepared to debate the Bible with him and why he's better off burning it than doing what he does with kids and celebrating it as the most important book on earth. I think The Cat in the Hat is a better book. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a better book. So see you later, Cardinal Pell. Nine years is a significant time out of anyone's life, given this mortal existence that we have. So yeah, enemies are a funny thing. I think of concepts from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That's Eminem, oh, you got enemies? Good, that means you stood up something in your life. But I got so much to say about this. There are many titles. Employer. He asked me the question once, who's your first responsibility? And there were times I thought we had a good understanding. Cool hand, Luke, he would say. I'm not sure if that pertains to the title of Western he watched. Maybe in his... Is Cool Hand Luke the name of a Western film? I have no idea. If it turns out Cool Hand Luke referred to my masturbatory skills, well, then we definitely have a cross line there, and it's going to take about at least an 8-ball. I think an 8-ball of cocaine lines for me to I should charge for some of the things people of Trans Privacy Act scoped in my residences, but yeah. There's the people that pan out to become your enemies. Sometimes they're the people that you thought they were your best mentor in the field, and that is a sad thing. It is a sad thing, but I was the one that never lost my temper, neither to customer nor staff, over any matter of any kind, during any exchange. No matter how insulted, and no matter how many ad hominems were being pelted at me. You can ask him this yourself. Say when did Luke yell at at a junior staff member in a Capital Chemist store? When did he yell, or when did he insult a junior staff member or a shop assistant, irrespective of their age? When did he insult a pharmacist? When did he use when did he make sexual orientation based, be they as accurate or inaccurate as could be? Doesn't really matter. When did he do that sort of thing? Never. And did he do all his duties as a technician and then get called on by everyone else in the store to work in every other area except basically sleep apnea masks? Although I did help Janelle with a lot of finding various mask fittings and tubes and things like that, when I had 320 Webster packs to personally assemble in a non-ergonomic setting in a little room where you hurt your back, arched over. It's like, remind me, it's like back to play school. This is the arch window. Oh no, it's not a window anymore, it's just Luke's spinal cord. And it's arching, but we said last conference that Capital Chemist is not a Woolies job. It means so much more, morally, and the duty that we're doing to the people. Actually, look, I mean, just this morning I ran into a woman, a teacher, a good friend of mine now, in terms of my local neighbours and neighbourhood friends here at Lynham Shops. A woman named Annie, she's a teacher and she taught at Hartley Court, and she was surprised to learn that for 3 years I was assembling all the weekly Webster packs for the Hartley Court residents. So, yeah, I'm the idiot who will not be himself, because no one in that chemist staff team would go toe to toe and lock horns with the stallion, being that of the ruthless co-owner of the entire franchise. But have they got an algorithm in place for studying the Doppler effect of a worksman, factoring in any and all violations of the rights charter by the staff members of the pharmacy chain who check the staff member? When they do their checking, do they factor in the fact that this check here in January was a Privacy Act violation? The checks we ran in February, they were Privacy Act violations. In March, once again, Privacy Act violations. And it's very funny because, I could smell it. My nostrils flared as suspicions rose in the mind of this man who, officiated my pay at the pharmacy services office. But, suppose you work for a private company like that and they are wondering what's going to lead them to wonder if you're dangerous and have harmed someone. Harmed or worse. And the irony is, there's pretty much nothing that's going to make them suspicious of you except for their own violations of your privacy while you were working for them. So they just have to run an inquiry on you at home. You're at home in private, and there they are coming at you with their questions and their statements, not in private, but in violation of the Privacy Act. And it's depraved because when you study something, I think you got to be all up in it as best you can. You don't want to be at a distance. It convolutes your results It also convolutes the attitude you get prior to running the inquiry and the study in and of itself. You could have been thinking all throughout your career, well, this person's violating my privacy rights every time they run their checks. And then it bubbles up a bit because this process of your Privacy Act being violated by the two owners of the chemist, you wind up it gets to a certain point, and then you start thinking, alright, who the fuck are you? If you're the arbiter on what's right and what's wrong, then why is it right that you be inquiring into me in full violation of my privacy rights? But that's about the standpoint from where they study you. So you flinch, you squeal a bit, you get angry, you get pissed off, and from their distant research point, they're thinking, ooh, look at that, he is getting a bit feisty. What's he done? And that's the only way they can think. They can't think, well, hang on, maybe he's pissed off that maybe he's thinking we've violated his Privacy Act one too many times. Maybe if we want to interview him or interrogate him or just make sure that he hasn't done anything to violate the rights of anyone else, maybe we should do so by organising a meeting and a cup of coffee and a chat, and we can run a line of questioning there, seated together at a table, in a professional fashion. So that doesn't happen, and it's there are existential conclusions, inescapable conclusions about what a human being is. Are we not a succession? Are we enduring beings? Are we a succession of fragments? You can have beautiful epiphanies looking at these physics laws, Newton's laws of motion. The statements out of relativity about the motion of bodies, the laws of attraction, even magnets, where you're flipping magnets over on one side, and on this side they're repelling the magnet, and on that side the magnet's clinging to them. It's there should be diplomatic meetings in some of those buildings and embassies near the city, where they just drop the race bullshit, like, oh, that embassy's for the Afghans, that embassy's for the... And drop them all and just think a bit more about the laws, the physical laws that bind us together and that have us bound together as the human race. I love thinking about how the ways in which those same scientific laws about objects, motion, laws of motion and the motion of objects, and for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and all those sorts of laws and rules and scientific statements, and how they don't just apply to things we experimented on in labs, but they indeed apply to us as human bodies. For every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you step back, you can actually, it's like taking acid, really. If you think of that you just obsess and fixate on that one statement. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and you apply it to human conversation. You can notice things like how tone of voice can impact the types of responses you get. You can watch how the same choice of words delivered in varying different tones of voices yield different responses. You can think about how in conversation you can turn a question into a statement or a statement into a question. I could say like, would you go to Tilly's? Or I could say, would you go to Tilly's? You know, the earlier one sounded like, I'm telling you to just go to Tilly's. Would you go to Tilly's? Nigga, please, would you go to Tilly's? That sounds more directive. I can say, would you go to Tilly's? It sounds like I'm making, I've presented you with a question. And all that is a bit of pitch bend inflection at the end, toward the later part of the line of words. So it comes across like a question, not a statement. So there are most language forms, I think, boil down to questions and statements. It's almost binary, like as if zeros and ones, as if zero with the statement, the proposition, and one was the question. So it's sad. It is sad for me to now have a serious enemy. If after his death threat he had gone, well, why did I just issue a death threat to Luke? He caught my shoplifter, and he defended my company, private company I built from the ground up in the 70s, and he really made an effort there catching that shoplifter, because he felt that if you don't want to buy shit perfume, you should pay for it. And some dude ran off with a fragrance bottle, jarred up his shirt, and Luke chased him with some security and cops. Got him citizens arrested. Got the fragrance returned to Capital Chemist Hyperdome. The owner, Peter, said, "Is there any way I can thank you?" Luke said, "Can I have a job?" Peter said, "Have you worked in a pharmacy before?" Luke said, "No." And Peter said, "Well, you got to start somewhere." And that was how I got my job at Capital Chemist Tuggeranong in 2001. But then I obviously met Roger in the same year. Remember the first conversation, I think, was at a staff party at Old Parliament House. I had learnt that Roger owned and started the franchise, and so I walked up to him and said, "Oh, hi Roger, I'm Luke from Tuggeranong, working with Pete." And he said to me, "Oh yes, well, Peter does seem to have a thing for hiring young boys." And I thought like he would go on to talk to me about, maybe as the manager, his vision for the place for the Tuggeranong Chemist, and its his goals and his aspirations, and what he wanted to see the pharmacy achieve in a generic sense, a general sense, because the Tuggeranong Hyperdome is big, complex. Sol Patterson's pharmacy were just up the escalator. He's the guy that founded the entire franchise. You would think he could say something like, my vision and goals for the Tuggeranong Hyperdome Chemist is this, that, and the other. And instead he's like, yeah, Peter is a bit well known for hiring little boys, or young boys, something. I did not leap to the conclusion that he was wanting to call me a homo, or thinking of me as a homo, or going, dude, this guy talking to me is such a fucking homo, or any other. I had no idea that any of thoughts like that would have crossed his mind at that point in time. I was, yeah, I was just trying to tell him I was happy that I had the job. It was an intimative response. But why? Like, why, if you've made this franchise, go, oh, well, Peter's quite well known for hiring little boys. This was on the balcony area of Old Parliament House. During the late 2001, it would have been around the November, December, the Christmas party at Old Parliament House. And that was my first conversation with Roger. I think the second time he spoke to me was, and it did add and shed a bit more light on that brief statement in at that Christmas party at Old Parliament House. But I was at Hughes, and he came, and he turned and looked at me and said, "Well, just be a good poof." And I was like, "Huh?" Later on, I was introduced to terms like "poofed with decency." A very loaded statement, because it's like, I mean, unless you wanted to violate the 1984 Sex Discrimination Act, if you wanted to raise in a discussion the issue of sexuality with anyone in your staff team, the Act dictates that you should approach the staff member, ask them politely if they don't mind answering questions on the topic of sexual orientation or sexuality, and then pose your question to them. After determining that they'll be comfortable. Otherwise, any sort of statements that are just loaded with sexual themes could quite easily run the risk of being in violation of the Discrimination Act. And in my case, getting told be a good poof, that's not even like leaving it open to debate as to whether or not you are even not gay, and as if straight and gay are the only two choices, but apparently it is in the capital scene from these 70s franchise co-founders. You're allowed to either be straight or gay. There's no transgenders and there's no bisexuals. It's straight or gay. And be a good poof, I guess he meant, or a poofter with decency. He meant be gay without, I don't know. I'm not sure what that meant. Be gay without. See, I haven't even dabbled in the mentality of gayness. There was a song called All in the Family by Korn, and it's a bit of a mockery of stereotypes, and it's a bit of a mockery of. It's a spoof of a song. It's really not to be taken too seriously. But yeah, in a business, if the ACT Sex Discrimination Act of 1984 is meaningless to a co-founder who is a pharmacist and one of two co-founders of an entire pharmacy chain here in Canberra, and it's all be a good poof. Not like, would you identify with the term gay, or do you consider yourself straight, or bisexual, or transgender? It wasn't even a who are you and how would you describe yourself, which would have been an acceptable dual line of questioning. Yeah, it was never questions. You don't get asked questions by Um, that's a disappointing thing, because it's as if he had long since distanced himself from the humble principles that brought the scientific method into its procedural manifestation. I can hear some neighborhood yelling. Una momento. It's the depressing thing about believers who fancy themselves also to be psychoanalytic, and then they, and I feel like I'm in a pedo ring because they're something of one. Because they're all, oh, and you're a 5-year-old boy. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And if you did your reading and thinking, you might have worked out, monarchism, blah, blah. Monarchism, Christianity. Monarchism, Queenie, monarchism, this did indeed cause all her religious blah blah blah, as well as all of his angry blah 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 blah. Yes. So if you were to have an employer try to tell me to be religious, that wouldn't just be a little insult. That's why I think Elizabeth Brennan maybe struggled with a lot of lesbianism. Her dad had died by the time she'd met me and tried to God bother me, so I think she was thinking about her first scissoring encounter and she wasn't sure which woman to pick. She was talking a bit about a customer we had who had committed manslaughter. I was like, well, I wouldn't pick her. Find a woman who's special to you. You obviously can't have the queen herself, but you need to find someone in your league. I wish I had told Elizabeth Brennan that at the time. I support her in coming out. Good luck, Elizabeth Brennan. That's why I think I've solved the mystery of why Elizabeth Brennan was so hateful to me at O'Connor in 2009, telling me to be religious. It was like she wanted me to be, like, somehow arise out of the ashes of her dead dad's fucking grave and, yes, I will serve your store at O'Connor. Fuck. I wish she had never called and invited me there, because it was atrocious. I'd rather be the whore in a whorehouse than fucking work there and get AIDS. But yeah, the obsession with whatever it is, her and Roger, Australia's a monarchy, and you wonder about what their process is in the military industrial fucking big pharma shit, whether they actually try and do get honors with. And if because of that they're overly enthusiastic about cooking up fucking gay bullshit profiles, we're starting to think that the lead pencil causes you to have an episode approximately 26.3 minutes from the time you think of, see or touch a lead pencil. It's called lead pencilophrenia, and it's been affecting you since high school. And then, Elizabeth Brennan's dreaming of grinding her pussy lips against Queen Elizabeth II's, Rolf Harris had nothing to do with that Garden of Eden story, Queen. We've got the right medicine for all of them. Fucking dumb bitch. You only go so far in a retail chemist job, and then you gotta fuck off. I've had to think about social consequentialism and where I draw the line. in terms of myself taking a stand. That's not like a online, an internet forum band of Revenge of the Nerds. Because now there's certain people in this former company have cost me too much, to the point that, I mean, even they knew I wanted to leave Australia in January 2010. They're like, oh, what's he done? He must be on the run and concealing something. You just can't win. No, I was thinking of traveling, but I know why they didn't think of that. It's because they know they pay you $15.95 per hour, so it's only enough to buy dim sims and tampons and pay your rent. You pay your rent and then you make dim sims, and then you get up in the morning and you put in your new tampon, Luke. Then you go back to Capital Chemist for another day at Capital Chemist, wearing snug with your tampon inserted. And third, then serve all the customers and ask if they want the generic brand of their prescription. Would you like the generic brand, sir, madam? Excuse my weird voice, it's just that I'm wearing my tampon today and I'm having a tough day. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm still waking up. I need some more caffeine.
I know what you interview me about. I'm rambling about.
Can you say
garbage.
watch Luke Banton on YouTube?
Watch Luke Banton on YouTube.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, you're welcome. Alright.
Would you like to fry up some eggs? Make some toast? I've got all the makings.
Well, I'm due to be at Tilly's now, but I can.
Ninja.
No, she's at work, but I'm. Hang on. Verbs. Dumb old man. Verb. Dictionary definition of the verb. Look it up. Dumb old man. So as I was taught by Roger Told during my years working for his company, they have what they call brain traps. My understanding of the officiated term is that of a psychoactive prison. And so it's a prison of voices whereby the citizen just hears voices all the time. And as I already mentioned in a previous clip, the voices try to establish through cross-referential, interrogative, psychological or reverse psychological techniques. They try to establish that you are the bearer of certain psychological conflicts. So in the minds of these researchers, the prison of voices themselves are like a measurement tool. And those invested in pharmaceuticals who run these voices through people's heads, they absolutely want to do everything they can to avoid having to contend with the charge that the voices themselves are the cause of anything. That they could be the cause of suicidal feelings, or that they could be the cause of impulses to harm oneself, or that by impairing free thinking, they are the cause of making people want to leave the capital or the country. We remember that unlike nouns that do talk about names or titles, verbs are about processes. Pretty good healer, good at healing certain ways, disabuse. We enjoy art that helps us to disabuse in our own ways. Friend in need's a friend indeed. Hello, beloved YouTube peeps. at this point, if you think that the material in the Deterioration episodes warrant any critical feedback, including that the whole channel is shit, you're welcome to please post comments. I should be able to on the channel. If a religious ideological movement has meddled with you and your kind and generous ways, and you'd like that religion to be criticized, also please write to the channel. If you have any ideas, if you're part of the unbelieving community, minority group, then and you feel like you have some ideas that you think are worth being contributed to the channel, also please write. And yeah, if you're a writer, also please write, because writers probably need to write. Thank you. Roger Redundant always wants to comment on it. The menus are all in French. Yeah, so the nuances of this, again, I'm not a causal or a case singularist, so more of a pluralist cases. It's the language, the use of language and forms of language that someone trying to do his form of science, his form of business, as he will call it, is yeah, he always has the desire to look at you thinking, can I make a case about you stipulating that you're a byproduct, an intellectually convoluted and mentally incapable byproduct of various forms of art. And it ties into why he won't come forward and say, or even argue with his own church. Like, I questioned, teachers and mentors in my former church when I was there. So in his mind, art, even a real disturbing piece of fiction or some very shitty B grade, like a B grade science fiction film that you wouldn't even take the time to watch, it's all going to be in the physical sense, in the sense of the natural world and the real world. Those forms of art are going to be more real to him, and then therefore posing ground for him to take intellectual contention with them and have an intellectual conflict in relation to them, because he is conflicted insofar as he hasn't come forward and admitted, well, the Freemason Church have made false claims, Lucifer does not exist, and though there may be some arguably valuable moral teachings that we feel we learnt in the Freemason Church, its theistic existential nonsense is ludicrous and untrue. So art is therefore more real, no matter what form of art it is. It's going to be more real than his religion. So he believes he has cause to make a counter-ideological sort of profiling initiative against art and against citizens in this city in relation to art. And so you could say, well, then he goes back home at the end of the day and, he's never looked in the mirror, looked at himself, looked at whoever he thinks he has integrity because of, or who his respectable friends are, and he's never said, dude, we were part of a bullshit cause for a while there, I'll be back.